What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we are here with Justin Foley of Killswitch Engage and, of course, the new kick-ass project, Lybica. Thank you so much for being here, man. Great to have you here.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks a lot for having me.
Anytime, man, anytime. This self-titled Lybica album, absolutely beautiful and a kick-ass album. I can't wait for the rest of the
Oh,
world to hear this album. For people who haven't heard the
thank you.
full album yet, though, with the first four singles that you release, is that a good representation of what the entirety of the self-titled album is going to sound like, or is that just scratching the surface?
It gets in there a little bit more than I would say scratching the surface, but there are some different songs that are sort of outside that area too. I don't think that there's a pretty decent amount of variety on the record, I think. And those songs are probably a pretty good indicator of what's on there, plus a little more, because there's some moments that are a little, I guess, softer and quieter that aren't necessarily represented in those songs, other than maybe a couple sections. But we try to not limit ourselves dynamically any way, one way or the other. So, there's hopefully some more stuff too that people will find pretty interesting once the full thing is finally out.
Yeah, definitely. People are going to be very shocked when they hear this. When it came to the formation of Lybica, did you pick these musicians to achieve this certain sound? Like, were you seeking out people for their individual talents to contribute to the sound, or was this kind of like a spur of the moment, like organic sort of oh, let's start a band moment?
It was much more the second thing. It's Doug and Joey are friends of mine for years, and we kind of always and have been musicians. And we sort of always kicked around the idea of just getting together and playing just for fun. We have some pretty similar bands that we all like, similar musical tastes, so we thought it would be a really cool idea to do sometime. And then, when we all ended up with nothing but time on our hands, when the whole world shut down, it was like the perfect time to just sort of get together and see what what would come about of us getting together and playing and everything. I had some stuff laying around that I didn't really know what to do with musically, and I thought maybe it would be a cool thing to see if it would get somewhere. And I sent the guys some of the stuff, and yeah, they were into it. And so we just sort of took it from there and just started playing. And before we knew it, we had basically a record written, which is pretty cool.
Did the isolation and the time kind of influence the direction of the music? Like Manifest, which is my favorite track on the album, and also great Sepultura track. Side note, that track I thought really represented this feeling of isolation and uncertainty, but also beauty at the same time, and how creativity could come. Was the isolation and the times that we were living in what fueled the kind of sound that we're hearing?
I think it's impossible for that not to have affected it, because it was just so all-encompassing of your life, really. And it was just a real, no one knew what was happening. No one had been through this kind of thing before. And so, there was a lot of fear and anxiousness. It just sort of naturally sort of would come out through writing and even just through getting together. It was interesting when we even started getting together. It was just sort of like, should I be in a room with two other people? Like, is this weird? Even just that, it was all those things coming together. And there's some different stuff on the song, on the record in general, with whether it's just sort of an isolation kind of feeling, sort of a desperate kind of feeling, or actual just anger also on there as well. So, and it probably all came from what we were experiencing and going through, right in the thick of it.
Being that you're playing guitar on this album, as opposed to drums, are you maybe expressing a different side of yourself, or expressing a different just art in general from what we would normally see with Killswitch Engage, or is there maybe a similar form of self-expression that applies to both?
That's interesting. I think there's probably some similar stuff, but it's different because you can really explore melody that you can't obviously explore on drums so much. I mean, you can with mallet percussion, but not playing drum set in pedal bands.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a whole lot of room to bring melody in. And it's not like when we get together with Killswitch songs that I don't have ideas or send demos. I definitely do, but it's just different with this. It was kind of like a clean slate to just throw whatever ideas I was having that weren't necessarily going to work in the Killswitch world, and see where they went with this. And playing guitar is really it was shocking and a little embarrassing to realize how much I didn't know about the instrument and gear after having been in bands for 25, 30 years. And then jumping into this and being like, oh wait, what P90 pickup, what's that, like what does that mean? And like learning all these things that really, if I'd paid any lick of attention before, I would have had a head start on. But it's been really, really fun to jump into that too.
Yeah, playing drums, playing guitar, and probably my favorite line I've ever heard in an interview. This was the first interview I've ever saw on YouTube with a band. Is when all five of you in Killswitch were doing an interview, and you were going around saying what you do in the band. And you say, "Hi, I'm Justin. I play my beard." I haven't forgotten that interview.
That's funny. I wouldn't recommend playing a beard, but
you wear it very well.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. It's getting a little grayer. It's a lot grayer now than it was in that interview.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, to quote Lemmy Kilmister, if you think you're too old to rock and roll, you probably are.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
that's a great quote.
Do you think though, like every song and expressing yourself with melody as opposed to rhythm, like with drums, is every song on this Lybica album maybe like a representative of an emotion that you were particularly feeling at that time?
Possibly, some more specifically than others. Some of them are just sort of like literally just sitting on the couch and watching TV or and just having a guitar and noodling something and then thinking, oh, that's pretty cool, and then I'll voice record it and go through them later and find something that builds from there. Manifest was actually one of those. The middle part was the first thing, the kind of the clean break in the middle was just my voice demo of that had a Yankee game in the background because I was just sitting there on the couch watching baseball, and that kind of riff came about, and then later on I sort of built the rest of the song or a lot of the other parts around that. And then there's another song, the last song on the record, it was just pure anger, and there was just a particular moment of I don't know how to describe it without getting too specific, which I'd rather avoid. But something made me really, really mad that was happening in the world, and I literally slammed 2 beers and went in the room with the guitar, and that song just flew out, and it was just like raw anger, really, where that one came from. So yeah, kind of different between those two, but I would say the rest of them were probably somewhere in the middle of those two extremes.
Well, sometimes when we are at our worst, art is at its best, right?
Yeah. I mean, when you feel anything to an extreme, if you can channel that into something positive, then that's always a good thing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's the number one thing I think of when it comes to Killswitch Engage, even like, some of the lyrics and the energy and the rhythm. And I feel like all 5 of you all have your own individual emotions that are contributed into that. And I think that's very evident with like the sort of side projects involved as well. You with Lybica, Adam and Jesse with Times of Grace, Mike with Death Ray Vision. Do you think that maybe exploring other territory could help you guys bring new stuff into Killswitch as well? Or do you try to maybe keep your other projects separate entities?
No, I think definitely. I think all of it works together, and the more you can explore those other outlets, the more you kind of just, I don't know, maybe learn about what you're interested in, or even learn about how to sort of shape those into things that you can use for other things, and bringing all influences together. Because obviously with Killswitch, we don't want to be so static where everything sounds the same. We always want to kind of expand and push things this way, push things that way. And I think a good way to do that is if we all have our other things that we're kind of experimenting, doing the same thing as far as pushing into other parts of music with that, and then coming back to Killswitch and what worked, what didn't work, what did we like about our other projects, what didn't we like, and we kind of try to use that for that as well.
Mm-hmm. And being that Lybica is instrumental, is it a little bit more like liberating in a way to kind of experiment a little more? Because, I'm not involved in the Killswitch writing process, but I'd imagine like, with Jesse singing both aggressive and clean vocals, maybe the instrumentation kind of like has to adjust to that sort of style. Would you say that not having vocals kind of makes it, for lack of better words, a little bit more free or liberating?
Yes, definitely. And there's a big side to that where it is kind of more liberating. sort of explore things, and you don't have to worry about leaving room for a vocal, or you can layer a bunch of guitars or something, and you don't have to think, okay, this is going to get in the way of what the vocal is going to be, which is great. And then there's the other side of it too, though, when you start to think, okay, well, how is this going to catch people? How are people going to latch onto this? Like, where's the hook? Because, vocals are typically always the place where you can rely on a hook. So you think, okay, well, how are we going to get a hook in there without words, without a lyric? And that's a sort of separate challenge in and of itself. But I've always really loved guitar leads and guitar-y kind of hooks. There's a lot of, it's funny. I was way into death metal, and death metal vocals can sometimes sort of become background, because they're just sort of, they can, in some instances, be a little samey. And then I would focus on all the riffs and all the other guitar parts.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of use that as far as thinking, okay, we need a real good guitar hook here. What's that going to be? As I'm sure you've heard, there's some songs like Manifest's very more traditional kind of songwriting structure as far as having a verse chorus kind of thing. Some of the songs on the record aren't like that. Some of them are, and it's trying to find ways to make both of that catchy and something that will stick in the singer's ear.
Yeah, and I think, because Manifest I thought was like the most kill switchy song, like within the riffs and stuff like that. I see some remnants of like End of Heartache, As Daylight Dies sounds in it, but you're right, you're able to like deviate from the traditional structure. But what I think is also great about it, I think we now live in a time where like if you tell somebody, yeah, I'm making an instrumental guitar record, they're immediately going to think it sounds like Animals as Leaders or something like that. But I think that this really avoids that. I think like there has like that, nice, melodic shredding part, but then there's almost kind of like a Russian circles, very rhythmic, atmospheric part to it. Is it fair to say that like there was many sources of inspiration behind the making of this self-titled album?
Yes, very fair to say that. One of the reasons we don't sound like Animals as Leaders is because I can't play like that. That's like a level of technical proficiency that I'm nowhere even close to. But yeah, there's all kinds of influences in this, and all over the place. But like Caspian was a huge influence on me. But I see what you mean. There's some really great music out there that is in the kind of instrumental realm, and I feel like there's almost too much of it, and it's gotten. Not that there's too much of it. There's so much of it that there isn't necessarily a category to put it in.
Yeah.
And when you say an instrumental band, you can kind of say, post rock or post metal band. And that's just gotten so broad that it doesn't sound like the best description of what it is. We're both, this band and Russian Circles are both instrumental bands, but I don't think we necessarily sound very much alike. They have their own thing, and we're sort of trying to find our own thing right now with this first record. So there should be a lot more categories if you are wanting to put labels on things.
Yeah, I'm a music journalist, and I still don't know what that term post means. I hear the word post black metal to describe Deaf Heaven, post hardcore to describe At the Drive-In, post this, like, right. I don't know. I think there's many the all those genre things now. I think are just humor and comedy to me. I think it's just good music in general.
Good. That's great. We've been hearing, in Killswitch, we've been hearing metalcore forever, and within our band, none of us have ever really known what that meant or considered it. It was just basically metal. We're a metal band. Our guitars are distorted, and they like to play fast.
Yeah,
it's kind of a metal band.
Yeah.
Once you get past that, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's funny with the metalcore debate. Like I ask people, okay, tell me what metalcore is, and they say, oh, it's music that has singing and screaming in it. I'm like, okay, so are you gonna call Opeth a metalcore band, or Fear Factory, So,
yeah. So. Fear Factory is like the first one I always think about. So is Fear Factory. So how come they're not? When did they start? 1990.
Soul of a New Machine came out in 91, so I think they started in 89.
Yeah, right. Very late 80s. So. Yeah.
Because I think
is it them? What is it? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think Fear Factory. They probably invented metalcore. Some people think they invented gent. So,
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. One question I wanted to ask, deviating from Lybica, actually, because being such a prolific artist who's played with many different bands, this year marks 20-year anniversaries of Spirals by Blood Has Been Shed, and
Oh, cool.
I just wanted to ask if, kind of like going back down memory lane a little bit, what the sort of like mindset was behind that album, and how would you say like musically you've learned so much between 2002 to now?
Yeah, that record just kicked my ass for sure. That was really, really fun to make and very, very difficult. And that's Corey, the guitar player, had so many ideas that were things that I had never heard or even wasn't even sure were possible to do, and all this crazy rhythmic stuff that he was thinking about. And the writing process for that record, I mean, we would sit and work on 10 to 15-second parts of a song for like an entire evening rehearsal period, trying to get it right, trying to figure out how it was going to work. And in the end, it was just sort of like, I remember at the end of it listening and thinking, wow, what did we do? Where did this come from? I'm still not really sure where that came from, but it's yeah, it's amazing that that was that long ago too.
Yep, I was in second
It's
grade when that
crazy.
came out. So,
Yeah, that's crazy that that was that long ago.
yeah. But
But that was a fun record. That was a really, really difficult, challenging record that if I don't know if I could play those parts anymore now. I think my younger me had
I
it
mean,
in me, but I don't know.
I think after playing End of Heartache, As Daylight Dies, Self-Titled, and all the other Killswitch albums, and this, I don't sell yourself short. I think you would make it even more of a monster than it was.
It'll take some practice for sure, but
Yeah.
and I'm not sure I even remember how some of those crazy parts go. But yeah, it was really fun. It was a really, really fun thing to do.
Yeah. And
It, it definitely changed my playing.
definitely. And speaking of that, I wanted to kind of ask like a technical question circling back to Lybica because being a guitarist but also playing drums for so long, do you almost like when you pick up a guitar and you start writing, does your drummer pass kind of like influence your hand and like you approach the guitar from a very rhythmic standpoint?
Maybe I know that I pick weird. I do a lot of up picking because it feels more like hitting something. It feels more like this motion to up pick, which I think is not what I'm supposed to do, but that's one thing. But I also, when I kind of come up with a demo, I have a loose idea of what the drums do, but I don't really know what they do. So a lot of times I'll kind of just write a demo out, record the part to whatever the tempo is, and then I'll sit down and try to figure out what the drums are going to do later. So I don't know. I feel like I would have been thinking more drum centered than I actually do when I'm playing some of this stuff.
Hmm. And when you play, and this is kind of like I think this relates a little bit more to Kill Switch in a way, but like as a drummer, like, because I've talked with like people who've played in the, for lack of better words, metalcore genre, and like whether it would have been All That Remains or As I Lay Dying or whatnot, where like they're playing, the guitars have to be more heavy during the growling vocals and the guitars are more clean during the clean vocals. Does that adjust at all with drums as well? Like, are you maybe hitting the ride cymbal a little bit more during like the clean choruses in a way, or?
Yeah, for me, one of the biggest things about drum parts for me are just cymbal textures and just finding ways to make that different. Um, I don't know. I just think that's a really important way to construct drum parts for this style of music, leaving the larger cymbals for the bigger, more climactic parts, and kind of building from there, almost like going down from there. Okay, well, this part's going to have this guy. I need to work backwards and how I'm going to get to that and how to make that a home.
Mhm.
Uh, I always think very simple texturally when I'm trying to write that's for sure.
Mhm. Do you prefer to hear music before you lay down a rhythm and a drum pattern, or have you ever had like a whole pattern already made and maybe the band could write over that with any project you've been in?
No, that hasn't happened yet. Yeah, I
Ever?
don't know why. I don't think that's ever. I don't think I've ever come up with a drum part that I thought was, hey, there's a cool drum part. And then riffs come after that.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
There's some stuff off of Disarm the Descent rhythmic wise. Like Bloodstains, the bonus track off Disarm the Descent, just that like that snare in the beginning is just like that. I was like, they had to write according to that. That was just one of the best drum intros. So I thought,
That's no cool. That's well, maybe in that some of the main ideas from that demo were ones that I brought in. So I guess maybe in a way the drummer wrote that part. So so yeah, you heard that correctly.
it's being that drums don't have melody behind it though, and I think this is, I've heard guitar players and singers say this, and I think it's bullshit. But like they say, because drums doesn't have melody, it's not really expressing much of an emotion. But that is wrong, right? I mean, I'd imagine that there is personal experience or interpretation or energy or emotion that you do channel into your drums that maybe add a layer of meaning for you for that song, right?
Absolutely. You can hear when a drum is really feeling it. And it's also a physical release, just playing drums when it's a part that's really an intense part. And that's a different thing with guitar too that I kind of learned as this was happening, is when you're playing a drum part that's a huge physical release, it's very satisfying to be able to wave your arms and flail and hit something super hard. And then when you have a guitar, that's like the big motion. It's this little wrist, this little picking motion. I'm trying to figure out how to get that same kind of release, other than like doing this, which with your picking hand, which if I do that, I'll just miss every string and it won't even matter. So I guess I just need more practice.
Yeah,
Well, it always comes down to more practice.
Just take the guitar and just slam it at the end.
Yeah,
You get the best of
that
both
swings and
worlds.
everything.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And when it comes to playing live, is there maybe though a similar energy that, because whether you are in a studio or in a practice space or on stage, you're looking at the same drum toms, the same cymbals, you kind of have the same view in a way. But is there at all a big difference into playing live as opposed to playing in the studio, or is there a similar energy involved with that as well?
No, there's a huge difference. We've only had 2 shows now so far with Lybica, but the main difference is I don't have Fort in front of me to kind of hide from, and that people might actually be looking at me when I'm not behind the drum set. Because I can play now and just kind of look out in the crowd, and I'm not worried about anyone looking at me because everyone's looking at Jesse or Adam or just any of the other guys running around the stage, and I'm just back there and no one pays attention. No one takes pictures of the drummer, right? So it's not, it's fine. And now I'm up front and people might actually be looking at me. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, it definitely is. But you know what? You'll get the hang of it. I hope you bring Lybica to New York. This is definitely a great sound that we definitely want to hear live.
We would love to. All we want to do is play. And actually, next week, I've scammed. We have a off-date headliner, Killswitch headliner show on this tour, and I've scammed the guys into letting Lybica open for it. It's in Albany, so that's going to be cool.
Doing double duty.
Yeah, can't wait.
God bless you. God bless you. Maybe get a Blood Has Been Shed reunion too, and then do triple duty.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and get every Killswitch Engage side project, old and new. Get Aftershock on a bill. Get Times of Grace on a bill. Like everybody does, the Ultimate Duty tour. You all can make one big festival of your own projects.
Yeah, I was gonna say that'd be a long show. There's a whole bunch of bands.
Yep. Yeah, that's like a full day at a Danny Wimmer festival.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And the final question I wanted to ask you, I saved the most difficult question for last. Are you ready?
Yeah, sure.
How do you know when you're finished with a song?
Yeah, how do you know when you finish with a song? I don't know how to answer that, because sometimes you think it's done and you record it and it's not. It means something. And then sometimes you do that and you play it 10 years later of playing it on stage. You think to yourself, oh, this would make it cooler and change a little part. So I don't know. I don't know if some would ever get completely finished.
Fair enough. And you also never know. You think you have an idea when you finish writing it, but then it changes when you record it, and then it changes when you mix it, and then it changes when you play it live. So
yeah, and then sometimes it doesn't at all. Sometimes you hammer out a demo and and it's never, and you never want to make any changes to it. Sometimes
And
they're all different.
they're all different, but that's what keeps it interesting, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today and for such an awesome conversation. Again, this Lybica album is incredible, and I cannot wait for the rest of the world to hear this. People are in for a treat.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much. We're all super proud of it. We recorded it so long ago that we just cannot wait for it to be out, for you guys to hear it.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Definitely worth the wait. Is there just anything else that you would like to promote for the release of this? Could there possibly be like a record release show, or maybe even like a full tour coming up with this? Or maybe we could even get like a part 2 Lybica album. I'd imagine this isn't just going to be a one and done album, right? Which I'm probably asking very prematurely, but
We definitely don't want it to be one and done. We want this to be, a band that grows and tours and learns about itself on the road. Has a second record that shows growth, just like any other band. That's our plan. But unfortunately, as far as the release date happening while I'm on tour, it makes the release show a little difficult. Albany one's about as close as we get, but I think that will be the first time I'll actually see the record, like the physical record. So I can't wait to actually hold one. It'd be pretty cool.
yeah.
But also when I get home, we have some shows. We live in Florida, so we have a couple Florida shows. We're playing Fest in Florida, which is gonna be pretty cool. Which is like right before Halloween weekend. And we're just looking to play as much as possible.
Yeah, and I again bring it to New York. And a quick question though, whose cat is that on the album cover, by the way?
That's one of Joey's.
Oh, really? Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought
we're all big cat guys. The band's name comes from a species of cat where the domestic house cat kind of evolved from. We're going full cat.
you make every album then a different breed of cat. Make the next album called Lynx or something like that, or Calico for the next.
That could be a thing.
Yeah. I thought for a second it was, but I realized that I don't think that cat's alive anymore. I thought it was the same cat from Cheshire Cat by Blink-182.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's just one of Joey's cats.
Well, that's an adorable cat. What's the cat's name?
I'm pretty sure that one is Stripey.
Stripey. Well, I hope he gets. He better be getting some credits on that album.
Yeah, we should have Stripey sign it.
Yeah.
Sign Stripey copies.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to demand royalties, but
I know.
he'll be
Or
like,
come back in 30 years and try to sue us for
yeah,
like the Nirvana kid.
yep. Or no, this will be like the lady from the Deftones around the Fur album cover.
Oh right, yep. That too.
Yep. But thank you so much, everybody. Justin Foley of Lybica and Killswitch Engage. Be sure to pick up their self-titled debut album. You do not want to miss it. It is Instrumental Bliss. We will see you next time on Heavy New York.